Okay. We're going. We're going.
All right.
Yep.
Where were we at? Let's see. Oh, schooling, right?
Yep.
I graduated in '49, and I said we were married in 1947. I mean, October '49 we got married. So I was married for a couple months, and I went to work at Autocar, and I did. At first, I did a lot of blueprint running off, and then I got to be designing trucks. Some of the trucks we did the curve windshield. It was kind of unique because trucks had a flat windshield, and they made a curved windshield. Would update the Autocar truck. Then after I was only there for about a year and a half, but after about 6 months, they put me on putting together some of the trucks, and then they gave me the fire engines, which was every fire engine was unique. And our biggest supply, we supplied most of our fire trucks to New York, and all of them were different. Everyone had different bodies, frames, what have you. So you had to put it all together, and you had different cabs and whatever. And it was kind of wasn't a hard job because everything was already made, like the engine and the cab, and then they put the places for the guys to sit, and the different pumps and what have you. So it was a pretty easy job, and I did that. And then they came out with some more new type trucks, carburetors and diesel engines, and you fit these together on different frames. And some frames you put different kind of bodies, or you didn't put them on, but you left space for them. Dump trucks, body trucks, whatever. So it was interesting. So, but the money was really, and then they were tight with the money. And the story about there was one night, and I wasn't part of it, but one night apparently they had a girly show in Ardmore, and I was invited, but I didn't go because I didn't go for that. Really, didn't go for that kind of stuff, especially just being married. And so the next morning we get in there, and half the place is empty, all the men. I said, "What's going on here?" I said, "We got a holiday today." And he said, "No." He said, "Last night they had a girly show." And as the show was going on, all these people were there. The police stood up at the doors and said, "Nobody move. Everybody's going to jail in this room." Took them down and booked them and kept them overnight. And the next morning, the place was empty. It was pretty funny. I had to tell that story. That was I never knew it. And you'd be surprised some of the guys that were religious types were in that thing. And we had a woman that worked with us at the time, and we never knew she'd get. And that was the other thing. This place was very strict. If you went to the bathroom and were there more than 10 minutes, they'd ask you, "What do you do? Have the diarrhea?" I mean, that's the way they were. I mean, it was one of the old type things. This is in the
50s.
almost 50s, right?
Yeah.
Almost the 50s, and they still had the old type thing. They were very, very strict. And this woman used to go, but she got away with it. She could go for a half hour at a time, and nobody would say anything to her. Of course, I guess they thought she had other problems. I don't know. But anyhow, one of the guys came in, and he said he just got a job at Westinghouse. And I said to the guy next to me, I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Oh, no." He said, "I love it here, so I'm going to stay." I said, "Yeah, for $29 a week?" I said, So I called up to get an interview at Westinghouse, and I went, and they invited me over, and I went down, and I talked to them. and I told him my background and what I had and, and what I thought I could do. And the guy said to me, "I'd like to offer you $76 a week to start." Well, I was so speechless and so stunned. I said, "I have to go home and think about it." And I went home, and as soon as I got home, I called the guy and said, "I'll take the job." So he said, "When can you start?" I said, "Well, I got to give him a..." Oh, this back to the story. Autocar, the guy that left before me, had 2 weeks vacation. Well, they wouldn't pay him for the vacation. They told him to leave that day. The day that Friday, they told him, he gave him 2 weeks notice. He said, "No, you don't get 2 weeks notice. You don't get your vacation. You leave today." So they kicked him out that day. So I figured, well, I'm going to do the same thing. So I went in and I said, "Here's the story, guys. I give you 2 weeks notice. And if you're going to send me home today without my vacation," I said, "you don't get 2 weeks notice. I'm leaving right now." So they said, "You work it out." He said, "You work out your 2 weeks and we'll let you take your vacation money." So that's the way it happened. And I went to work at Westinghouse. And I worked at Westinghouse, for almost 5 years. And I became,
1956.
one day, Westinghouse was,
1955.
Westinghouse was a union shop, even in the offices, in the thing. And I worked on the turbines. And first I worked on the blades, turbine blades, which were very unique and had a lot of curvature to it because of the way that you had to generate electricity through the blades. And the most efficient machine around was the turbine, the electric turbine. So I worked there for a couple of years, and finally the shop steward in our office left. So they had an election, and there was a guy that was running, was an Italian guy that couldn't even speak English. So I said, I don't want him representing me. So I said to the guy, the union chief, I said, "Look, I'm going to run for the union." And so I did, and I won. And this guy, my boss, Bill Lloyd, came up to me and he said, "Fred, I don't want you off this job. I want you at your desk all the time." I said, "Bill, don't give me that." I said, "I'm going to be away from this desk as much as you people make me. The more trouble you give me, the more I'm going to be away." So in the time, my arm was bothering me because when I was getting married, I broke it. I sprained it again on the locked the car up, and I went to try to open it, and I twisted my arm, and it had it swollen up. So I had to go to VA. So I went down to VA, and I told the guy I was getting married that weekend, and he said, "We're going to put a splint on it, or a cast on it." He said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "I can't get married with a cast on my arm." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what." He said, "I'm going to cut it open." He said, "And tape it." He said, "If you promise, right after the wedding, you put that back on and tape it back up again." So I said, "Okay," right? So I put the cast on, he cut it, and I went home, and I waited till the day we got married, and I took the cast off. And of course, after I got married, I had to put the cast back on. So while at Westinghouse, they made an appointment that I had to go back right after I won the election for the shop steward. And I said I had to go to the VA and I would only be out that morning. And Bill Lloyd gave me a hard time. I said, "Look, Bill, I know the rules." I said, "I'm not only going to take a half a day, I'm taking the whole day off because of you." And I said, "You can tell management that." So I did. I took the whole day off, went to the VA, and came back. So he came up and he was really upset with me. So he started cursing me. He told me, he called me an SB and everything. And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, Bill." I said, I just got your job. He said, what do you mean? I said, I read the rules. I got the union book in front of me, the management book. I said, you are not allowed to use profanity with me, and I'm not allowed to use profanity with you. I said, you're management, I'm the union representative. So he said, you do whatever you have to do. I said, okay. I walked into the chief engineer's office and I said, I want Bill Lloyd's job. He said, what? I said, I want Bill Lloyd's job. He said, why? I said, he just cursed me, and by the rules, he swore me up and down, and I said, I have witnesses, I want his job. So he said, Fred, go out and sit down and think about it. I said, I'm telling you, I want his job. So I went out and I did what he did. He called Bill Lloyd in. Apparently they had a long time. So he said, go out and, no, he didn't send him out. He sent the secretary. He said, would I wait a couple days to think about this? And I said, okay. I told the secretary, it's fine. So she went back. This guy's name was Franks. She went back, and a couple days he called me back in. And he says, do you really want Bill Lloyd's job? I said, yes, I do. I said, that guy was mean to me the whole time I've been here. I said, we go into negotiations, he gives me a bad time. He tells me I don't know what I'm doing. I said that he cursed me, and I said, and that was a violation of the contract. I said, I want his job. And he got talking, nicey and all. He says, well, I'll tell you. He said, and he started things. So I said, no, that's it. So I went out. Next day, he called me back in again and again. He said, well, we really don't want to do this to Bill. He said, it could look bad for the company. It's going to look bad for him. It's going to look bad for everybody. So we talked for a long while, and I said, okay. I said, if you promise me that I'll get no more static out of this man, the rest of my time here, I will not want to take his job. I said, I'll let him have his job. Well, Frank said, okay. And I went back to everything, and they called Bill Lloyd, and I guess they told him, well, that guy apologized to me for a week. Every day he stopped by and apologized. I mean, it was unbelievable. So anyhow...
Did you ever get any business from him again?
Huh?
Did you ever hear anything from him again?
Oh, well, I mean, she still was in the thing. Well, we did have one more round.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really a round. So this one guy was named Jackson, and he was an old-time... See, the Westinghouse and a lot of the companies didn't hire Catholics in the early 30s. No, they're Masons. Believe me, right?
Yes.
And this guy Jackson was a Mason, and he was the laziest guy you ever saw. He did nothing. So we're in negotiations on the contract, and I go down and I'm arguing for this one guy that was a designer, and I wanted to get him upgraded. And I had all these drawings and everything, and I proved to him that he could do the job. And he's giving me saying, no, he can't do the job. And I say, he can do the job. And I says, what about Jackson? He said, what do you mean, what about Jackson? I said, the guy's a bum. I said, he lays around all day. He said, would you fire him? I said, as a union representative, I could not fire him because I have to give everybody the job. But I said, as an individual, I said, I'd fire that guy tomorrow. And I said, and you people ought to notice it and fire him too. I said, all he does is smoke a cigar and stand around all day. So, okay, finally they agreed to give this guy, the designer, his rate and give him an upgrade. Then there was a girl who had plenty of money that was a draftswoman. And we wanted to upgrade her, and they didn't want to upgrade her because I guess she was a woman, and one of the excuses was she had a lot of money. And she did. She apparently was very well off. And I said, that's not a criteria. The girl does the job, what have you, and I said, I think she ought to be paid for what she won. Well, we went around and round and round, and finally they said, okay, we won't give her the upgrade, but we'll give her the money. We'll give her the increase. So I said, wait a minute. So I went out and I talked to her. I said, look, they're going to give you $3 an hour more, but they don't want to give you the rate, but they'll give you the money. And she said, that's fine. I'll take the money. She said, I don't care about what they call me. She said, so I went back and I said, okay, give her the money and forget about the grade. So that's the way that. Then after that, Westinghouse went out on a lengthy strike. So I came home and I told Mom, and we went. I went over to Burroughs, and I applied for a job there. Well, I was hired right away, and I was working on the automatic stamping machine for the U.S. mail with this engineer. And what it did, it ran all the things through, and it checked the mail stamps and what have you, and it automatically passed it through. If it had to reject it, throw it out. So it was really an interesting job. It was really really neat, and I really enjoyed it. And so I worked there, and I come home one night. And in between, before I went to Burroughs, I was off for a couple of weeks, right? We were playing. I was off for a couple of weeks, and that's when your mother got pregnant with Mary. And I was playing quaits, drinking beer. We were having a good time. Frank Cushman come up and the other guys, and we were just lollygagging around for about, I guess, a couple of weeks, a month, 2 or 3. She was working. I'm out in the yard shooting quaits, what have you. So I found out that GE was coming to Philadelphia and King of Prussia. So I went down and I got my resume together and I took it down, and they had a place down 32nd Street, and I put in my application down there. And this was October. In January they called me down. I was the first designer interviewed at Chestnut Street. Art Morris interviewed me, and we went up, and I would sit down and talk to him, and he says, right after the interview we got done, it was only about a half hour, and he said, boy, I like what you have to offer. He said, I'd like to offer you a job and give me the rate and everything. And he says, can you go to Schenectady? And I said, no. I said, sorry, I can't. I said, I hope it doesn't affect me, but I said, I can't go to the thing. But he said, but my wife is pregnant, and we're going to have a baby in May or June or July. He said, well, we're coming down to Philadelphia in May. So I said, well, that timing would be good, for me. And he said, okay, so I'll tell you what, you don't have to go to Schenectady. We're going to put you down to come start working when we come down to Philadelphia in May. You got the job. So, and he said, you're the first designer we interviewed and the first one hired. So I said, great. The place was empty, a big warehouse, the old A&P warehouse at 32nd and Chester Street, right across from Drexel. It was beautiful. It wasn't at the time, but it became beautiful. So I went home, and I said, and the money was well better than Westinghouse. Westinghouse, they decided I was going to go from designer to engineer, and they were going to put me in the combustion, I guess diesel engines for submarines. They were still in the submarine, or switching over to turbines for the submarine. They were going to put me in that section. But they didn't want to give me any money. They want to call me engineer, and they didn't want to give me any money. I said, what do you mean? And I was making about $105. They said, well, you're at the bottom of the engineering rate now, so we don't want to give you any money. I said, well, I can't tell the bread man that, that he comes and he wants his money. I said, I can't tell him I'm an engineer. He don't care what I am. So they laughed, and they said, well, he said, maybe after a couple months we can. But then at that time, they were going out on strike, so it didn't really matter. And so come May, I go to work for GE down at 32nd Street. And I meet all the guys, and then we got a carpool, and we were traveling the expressway. And the expressway wasn't finished at the time. It only went down to the East River Drive. What was that, the East or West? Well, it wasn't finished only went so far, and that was
East
above.
River Drive.
Huh?
East River Drive.
It's on, yeah, it's on this side of the river, the same side as the Schuylkill Expressway. So we used to get off and go, and then we had carpools. Earl Claremont, Rube Carlson, Numbnuts, Bill Saul, and a couple other guys that alternated back and forth. So it was really good. Every guy drove a different time. Every week, a different driver. Let's see.
Go.
All right, I was running around with the guys from the north side, Phoenixville, the Kramers, the Giuseppes, and the Carneys, and different guys. I got to be very friendly with the north side. Because of the Kramer family, they had a lot of boys. And Leo and John were in my age group. And they were nice guys, and we played ball together. I played with the Friendship Fire Company baseball team, softball team, where we won one year 88-0, and we won the championship in Phoenixville and had a big time at the firehouse. The firehouse was great. We used to go up to the firehouse quite often. So we used to go to different places. I used to shoot darts with a guy named Red Skimmertz, and every Friday night we'd go out and drink on somebody else's money, because we were pretty good dart shooters. We'd go out to Kimberton and various things, and this Friday night was our night to go drinking, and we would shoot at the hall, and we were also in the lake. We were on a team. We had a 5-man team, and we used to go around different nights in different clubs and have a dart league, and we were pretty good dart shooters, to say the least. So we also would go to dances. We danced in the Phoenixville. We did we go to the various clubs, St. Mary's, and they had dances all over the place. And we start going to Coatesville dances. Down to Philadelphia, a lot of the Polish organizations we would go. And a couple nights we start going to Chez Vous, which was in Upper Darby, which was a big dance hall, old time music and what have you. So we're over there and we meet these girls from supposedly Roxburgh. So I offered to take them home because they would have to travel by bus, so they agreed. It was, I think, 3 of us and 3 of them, and we drove. So I said, where do you live in Roxburgh? And they said, we get off here, we're going to walk to the house. I said, no. I said, I brought you home, I got to drop you off. So they took me down to Carson Street, which is now was Manayunk.
Crescent
Street, which was Manayunk. And the whole 3 of them lived within, I guess, a couple of houses of each other. So while we're there, and they told us about the Polish club. What was it called? I forget. It's in Manayunk. It was Polish. Colonial Hall in Manayunk. And they said Sunday nights they had a dance every Sunday night, and it was closed to everybody but members. And if we wanted, we could join as members, but if we just wanted to come there some Sunday night, come down and ask for the girls, and they would get us in. So we did. We went down, and one night, and we got down, and we went in, and we had a nice time. We danced, and they were very friendly. Nothing serious, just dancing, and bought them some drinks and what have you, and shot some darts, and then I found out there was going to be a dance the following Saturday night at the Colonial Hall. So it was we talked it over, and about 3 or 4 of us decided we were going to go down and see what the dance was like, because we figured it was going to be a lot of females, which it was. So we went down, and I started dancing. I asked that senior mother, I went over and I asked her, I guess before the break, didn't I? I danced with you before the break? No, I seen her before the break, but I guess I didn't have enough nerve to ask her.
Wait a minute,
So we
Mom.
went
Wait,
down.
Mom.
Yeah,
Why were you at the dance?
My sister told
Sister
her and
struck her.
going. She wanted somebody to go with her, and I didn't want to go, and she talked me into it.
So you were reluctant.
Yes.
so we went to the dance, and it was break time, and I went down, and I was shooting darts. We were shooting darts down at the thing, and I looked over, and I seen her at the table with some other people. I don't know who's four
My
or five
sister.
people. Your sister? Yeah, but there was a couple of boys, weren't there? A couple
one
other people.
boy.
Just
There was
one?
boy. And
I
he
looked
was
at her and I
with
said,
Dad
"Oh,
and
I'm not gonna have to
Nancy.
go. I'm gonna have to dance with her when we go upstairs." So I looked, sought her out, and I found her, and I went over and asked her to dance, and we danced. And so we got dancing most of the night, and many times as I could get a hold of her. And I said to her I'd walk her home, right? What? I said I wanted to walk. I had the last dance with you, and I said I'll walk you home, right?
You didn't leave.
Huh? I
Once
didn't
he
leave.
got
I
there.
stayed all night. I guess so. So, I walked her home, and it was raining. So one of the Deacons